Let's get real. Are you ready? It's time. This is your host, Catherine Whalen-Costin. We've got a great show for you today. It's my pleasure to introduce Debbi Coleen back to the show. Debbi is an intuitive consultant and the owner and manager of Health and Vitality Wellness Center in Langley, British Columbia. Debbi has been using her intuitive skills for over 20 years, helping people to discover what they already know, but couldn't access. She works with tarot cards, astrology charts, numerology grids, and a variety of other mediums, including the Starseed Blueprint, which we talked about the last time, and listeners can access through my website. But today, I'd like to start off by getting into some lunar astrology and talk about the lucky dragon year. Debbi contributes to the magazine True Blue Spirit magazine, and it's available both online and in hard copy. It's a very cool magazine, I must say. I'd like to quote a bit of what Debbi said in this month's magazine. January 23rd, 2012 is the first day of the Chinese New Year. Dragon is very enthusiastic and eager to really get things going. Much will happen in 2012 with Dragon's idealistic, all-encompassing and inclusive nature, heralding exciting changes globally. Okay, so I'm going to let Debbi explain more about that because I think this is pretty exciting. So welcome, Debbi. Let's talk about the dragon year. Isn't this fun?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great energy because things are really starting to happen. I think what happens in Dragon Year is exactly the same or almost the same as what happens in other years. But what makes the difference is that we pay attention. Dragon really keeps our attention, so we are aware of what's going on. And people have, Dragon's so idealistic. Dragon wants to change the world to make it a better place for everyone, and especially themselves.
I feel like a dragon.
Yes. I think Dragon is kind of like Leo in the Western astrology. Just, very royal and regal, a lot of dignity, but also a lot of fun. And so Dragon lifts us up. It's the only mythological creature in the 12-year cycle for the lunar astrology, the Chinese lunar astrology. So it's really special. For Chinese people, the dragon is very benevolent. It's not a threatening or dangerous animal like we have the concept in the West. It's good luck and friendly and warm and, like I said, benevolent. So that's what we can look forward to this year is an energy of a higher vibration and lots happening, a lot of activity and a lot of awareness. I think we saw the beginning of it in Rabbit Year last year. The Iron Rabbit got us thinking about what could be better. Rabbit does that. But it's a very inner energy. Rabbits don't like to cause a lot of waves, but they really get it. They get what needs to be changed. And then they hand off the baton to Dragon. And boy, Dragon just jumps in there and things start changing.
Well, isn't it interesting that, it's no coincidence then that Dragon is the, 2012, the big change year in the other aspects of the Mayan calendar and so forth. Like, some people call it end times, some people call it new times. Of course, we can get that the end of something, the beginning of something else. But I think it's kind of cool that the Dragon year would actually fall on the same year as this big change year.
It's true, and it is always a year of change. Dragon really heralds a lot of change, and it's not the first year of the cycle. Rat is, and then we have ox and tiger, then rabbit, and now dragon. So it's the 5th year, and it And I think, you know, in any cycle of things, there's a year when things do change. You throw out what's not working, and you take on, you really focus in on what does work. Any cycle seems to have that point at least once. And dragon is definitely one. There's a lot of optimism in a dragon year.
That's great for us, isn't it? With all the chaos and so forth that's going on, or you know, our perception. There is this big chaos.
Well, last year we had a lot of people starting to take exception to the established order, and it was just the beginning. I mean, dragon is an energy that gets things changed and gets things done. People pay attention to what's actually happening. There's a lot of energy, so people aren't so tired and inward. They're out there, you know. They're doing.
So does it supports us then? It supports us in moving into our changes.
That's not right. Just dragon flies.
Pardon?
Dragon flies. It has wings. It lifts us up.
Right.
So we don't sit in our stuff anymore. We don't hop down burrows and avoid it. We pay attention, and dragon is very powerful at getting people. Well, you could say up in arms, I guess, but aware and working together.
Right.
Dragon creates kind of a leadership energy that we rally around, and we set out as a group, as community, in a very egalitarian way.
Would you say that people are feeling empowered? That this new energy, because the energy feels different to me since the beginning of January, and it does feel lighter.
Yeah, and we are empowered, and this is the year when we empower ourselves more. This is where we start working as community to make things better for everyone. It's not individually empowered so much. That would be rat year at the beginning of the cycle. That's an individual year. Tiger's another individual year. But dragon, though he's an individual that has a lot of power and dignity, he brings the crowds along and speaks to each person kind of individually in a kind of larger than life way, taking us into new initiatives. And we have a lot of energy to get things done, like do the groundwork, dig the trenches, and build the walls. And together, you know, it's a great energy for like a barn raising.
Right. And that's what I was thinking, is that we've kind of moved out of the idea that we each have to do it alone. And there seems to be a little bit more of a cooperation, and people feel safer now. Maybe because they've seen on such a grand scale how, you know, people did stand up in the various places on the planet, the Occupy movements and the Egypt Rising and so forth, that maybe people are starting to
it's not going to end.
Right.
Those energies are not going to end, but what people will do is learn from their mistakes of maybe taking on, you know, that whole creating enemies.
Right.
People with dragon at the beginning of the year, if there's an innocence and maybe a childlike energy, at the end of the year, people learn to cooperate and use consensus energy because they've realized their power and they want to then create systems and changes that are going to continue, but they want them to have an all-encompassing energy that creates an opening for all time, because dragons are very long-lived. So by the end of a dragon year, they starting to work with a more balanced energy and long-term view, and also all-encompassing, if I didn't say that before, meaning it's good for everyone, or as many people as are speaking up anyways.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
It's a good year to speak up.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the energy supports it.
That's right. That's right. And speaking up in a constructive way, not to create more discord, but people who have answers and practical solutions, possibilities to try out, not just tearing things down. Dragon is a builder, wants practical if idealistic, but at least, practical idealism.
Right.
It's at work.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't read the book yet, but I've just recently been introduced to some new information from Greg Braden. And he is talking about something that there's some evidence to show that where we've kind of accepted this idea, this Darwin's theory that survival of the strongest is how he put it. And he said we've accepted it as a truth about human nature. This is what we are. And he said that there's evidence to prove that's not true. It's actually just a habit. And that there is some scientific evidence now that shows that we're on this planet previous to our current knowledge. And we had civilizations that worked in cooperation. They've done some archaeology digs and found that there's no evidence of violence. There's no evidence of war like tools, etc., etc. And that, I think, is very cool, because once we let go of a habit, most people, if you think it's inherent in your makeup, this is how we are, being competitive and chaos and so forth, if we think that's just the way it is being human, we'll accept it. Whereas if we actually realize, no, this is just a habit, we can choose to change. And that it sounds like that's what you're saying. This is the energy that supports cooperation. And how exciting. This is the real deal.
Well, there will be opposition, because the energy of dragon brings things to a level, a higher level, but a level of the greatest equality that people can handle at the time. So people, structures and institutions that haven't been about equality, and we do have a lot of them that, want a good, strong middle class, but then they, processes where there's a higher class, you could say, taking many profits and a lot of the good that you could say the middle class works to create. And I'm being very general.
But the thing is that, there's an idea that there's a desire for a strong middle class, or even that we have. But what it looks like to me is the middle class is actually being wiped out. We have the very poor and we have the very rich, and we have very few that can be considered in that middle class. And I think probably because there's more in that now, there's more on the scales have been really tipped, that there's more people. I think, unfortunately, for a long time, the poor were in the minority. And so it was enough for the rich and the middle class to give a little to the poor from time to time. But now that there's becoming a lot more in the category, let's say, of lack and so forth, that people are saying, no, this is no longer acceptable. And this is my opinion. This is what
Dragon comes along to change. Dragon is about, big global initiatives. And also, I think with this new reality, this new energy of this new beginning, new.
Right.
We're going to see more of that dichotomy, because we are meant to succeed. However, we've been very brainwashed and frightened into believing that that's not how this world works. But more and more, from my understanding, science itself is finding that the processes of the planet are not random. The universe works in ways where things are stacked towards life and stacked towards growth and betterment and support and growth. I mean, you just look at a tree growing over years. It gets more every year, more branches, and each branch may have more leaves because it's bigger, longer. And enlargement and abundance is the way of nature. And things work to support that. And Dragon works with that energy. It's about abundance. It's about freedom. It's about intellect and choice, empowerment. So if we follow those and understand and embrace the benevolence of the dragon, that there's nothing and no one in the universe against us except our beliefs and our habits. That's
empowering.
And what that does is, with this new energy, is it does create that split. More people working towards abundance and empowerment that way are getting what they expect. And people who maybe have beliefs and expectations of less, that's what they'll get too. That's what,
because we really are creating our reality.
Everyone is so powerful that we can get what we create. And people can agree or disagree with that, and that doesn't matter. But frankly, if there's a possibility of my belief system giving me better and more based on what I believe, I'm going with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love the fact that we are becoming more aware of, and with these tools, even understanding the dragon year. I mean, there was a time when people probably, unless you were Chinese, you probably didn't pay much attention to the year of. And now it's becoming part of the collective to look at all the signs. Like, God has been so good to us, giving us so many tools to work with. And now it feels like the scientists are starting to get the idea, you know what, these people aren't going to shut up. So we might as well take a look at it. And lo and behold, they're finding evidence to support a lot of the theories that what they've basically pushed away as a theory in the past. And now we've got, for some people, really need that scientific proof. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't. They trust and go on faith, and they have the results to prove it, right? So. Yeah. But this is very, very cool.
Well, and this is a powerful year for us to recognize our tools and our strength and the abundance and our empowerment. Because Dragon Year is about reinventing ourselves and reinventing our world and reinventing our beliefs. And why not? Let's go for it. We can only go as far as we can expect. If we don't have expectations and hopes that take us beyond, we don't go beyond. So let's, take advantage of this year and do it.
We pretty much have nothing left to lose.
Well, I think that's why a lot of things are happening, because for many people, this system of, I don't know, whatever you call this system, I don't want to call it capitalism, because that I don't know is purely what's going on in the world.
The chaos system?
Yeah.
It's
working.
Right.
And a lot of people are suffering. My personal understanding is, I like to, I'm not a person who knows the Bible really well, but it's very clear that the Bible fully supports the idea that God gives us freely all that we need. And we've bought into a belief that tells us that we have to struggle and it's not available. And if I have something, I'm taking from somebody else. And I don't think that's true, and Dragon certainly doesn't believe that. Dragon believes that everyone has the power and ability to create the life that they want.
Oh,
and they awaken that.
That's the good news for 2012, for sure, isn't it?
That's right.
So, Debbi, I don't want to run out of time, and I want to make sure that our listeners will get a chance to know some of the things that you're doing in your local area, or that you offer via the internet. I know you will do readings and work with people over the phone and the internet, and they can contact you at askdebbicoleen.ca. Is that right? .com.
Yeah.
But and that information is on my website as well. But what else is going on that you can help to?
Well, I've had some very interesting things happen. I've been asked to speak in a local spiritualist church on February 16th. I'm talking about my 5-element theory that I call the Starseed Blueprint, which I believe is the prototype of the manifestation cycle in the fifth dimension, whatever that means. Exciting. And then the day after that, I'm in Victoria, BC, speaking at, is it a community creative group, and I'm speaking about Year of the Dragon. So
wonderful.
My favorite passions coming up.
Are you still doing workshops as well?
I have workshops, yes. And we have one basically each month. And I believe you're going to be interviewing Rachel White Seeing Owl.
I am.
And she and I work together on these. In February 12th, we're at our center in Langley. I'm doing a talk on Year of the Dragon and You. So more of this. And some experiences and activities to empower ourselves and move right into the energy of Year of the Dragon.
Now,
and
before we run out of time, I just want to, can people sign up for your newsletter so they know when all your different activities are going on?
Sure. They can just send me an email at Ask Debbi Coleen, and that's Debbie, D-E-B-B-I. There's no E on my name. AskDebbiColeen.com, and just send me an email, and I'll add you to the list of people who receive the newsletter.
That's wonderful. That will be perfect, because I know we only have about a half an hour, and although in the future I want listeners to know we're going to have Debbi back and we're going to open the lines to callers, and then we'll be able to really get into some really deep stuff. And I think you would be willing to do that, Debbi?
Sure.
Yeah, I think
I'm always willing to talk.
Well, so am I, chatting with Catherine. So you've been listening to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine and our guest, Debbi Coleen. I really want to thank you, Debbi, for this opportunity. It's been fantastic, and I look forward to our next interview.
Thanks, Catherine. Always a pleasure.